So these are going to be instructions on how to perform the iWORX lab on measuring lung volumes and heart rate. So as far as the setup goes, we're going to be using the pulse plethysmograph and a flow head. Here's your pulse plethysmograph. It's going to wrap around your finger. Make sure that your subject removes all their jewelry as well. You've got a nose clip. That's going to go in your subject's nose to make sure that all the air comes through their mouth. And this is the flow head that's going to measure air movement. You've got a cardboard tube that your subject's going to breathe in and out of. And you've got this white tubing that's going to hook into your data acquisition box. It's got these little outlets on the top. Make sure that the little red outlet is plugged into the red connector on your data acquisition box. And make sure when your subject breathes in and out that the outlets are facing upwards. Plug in your pulse plethysmograph and you'll be ready to go. As far as settings go, you want to choose human spirometry, then select the lung volumes heart rate lab. You also want to make the change of setting your display time to 45 seconds on your LabScribe screen. So we've got a couple channels that are going to pop up. At the bottom, we've got a heart rate channel. We don't really need it. We really want this one. This is a lung volume. And we want our pulse channel as well. So I'm going to hit record. And I'm going to start running a pulse wave from my pulse plethysmograph. And this is what my pulse wave looks like. I can make my tracing larger or smaller by hitting auto scale or hitting the little plus or minus. Now on this channel, the lung volume channel, you can see my breathing in and out. An upward deflection is going to signify inspiration. A downward deflection signifies expiration. So you can see here just normal breathing at rest, in and out with those breath cycles. Next, I'm going to breathe in and hold my breath. And you can see on the lung volume tracing where the volume is not changing. So that's where I'm holding my breath. During this time, I'm also measuring my heart rate through the pulse plethysmograph. If your tracing happens to run off the screen, you can either decrease the size of your tracing or click on that channel and drag your tracing down just a little bit. After holding my breath, I'm going to return just to normal, quiet breathing so you can see again my normal inspiration and expiration there. Next, I'm going to take a maximum inhalation. So you can see my larger waveform there where I breathe in as much as I can, and then I breathe out back to normal breathing again. And then coming up here, you can see where I breathe out as much as I can. It doesn't look like very much. And then go back to normal breathing in and out. So once you have all your data, you're going to stop your tracing and you can start taking some measurements. So I'm going to scroll back to the beginning. You're going to actually do these as all different tracings. So you're going to do one activity and then start your tracing over again. But here's my pulse wave, and so I want to measure my beat period. I can put my cursors at the tip of each pulse wave, and here's my time here. My T2 minus T1, there's the time between pulse waves. I can go down to the next one. There again, time between the two. So I can use that to calculate my heart rate using that number there. So 60 divided by that number converted to seconds is going to be my heart rate. Now I can also take some measurements on my lung volume tracing. This is showing you tidal volume. So this is just normal breath of air in and out at rest. I can put my cursor at the top of subsequent peaks and again measure the time difference between the two. So I can use that number to calculate respiratory rate. So I know how long it takes me to take one breath. So how many breaths am I taking in a minute? So I can say 60 divided by that number will give me my respiratory rate or breaths per minute. Then I can come down and let's say I want to measure how much air I'm breathing in with each breath. So I can put one cursor at the bottom of the wave, one cursor at the top of the wave, and I'm going to measure change in volume. So this is V2 minus V1, and it's measured in liters. And we would expect that to be around half a liter or 500 mLs because that's typical tidal volume. So that's how I'm going to measure my tidal volume there. Now I can scroll forward, and here we are at the period of time where I was holding my breath. So you can see my lung volume isn't changing because I've inhaled and I've just held it. But I can go through that period of time and measure changes to my heart rate. So I'm going to measure beat period again, peaks of subsequent pulse waves, and use that T2 minus T1 number to calculate a heart rate. And let's see if that changed while I'm holding my breath. I'm going to scroll forward a little bit more, and I'm going to look for that maximum inhalation. So I've got regular breathing just up and down, and then I take this big breath in, and I want to know how much air I was able to pull in. So this is actually measuring my inspiratory reserve volume. So I'm going to go from the top of my tidal volume to the top of that inspiratory reserve volume, and that's going to be my amount right there, that V2 minus V1. I also want to know how much air I was able to blow out. Again, it's terrible. It doesn't look like very much, but I'm going to put one cursor at the bottom of my tidal volume, the other cursor at the very bottom where I blew that air out, and that number is going to give me my expiratory reserve volume. So again, it's a volume, so it's going to be V2 minus V1.